back in August 22, when we signed Max Cornet from Burnley, Burnley had just got relegated that season. So we got a pretty decent deal on the player, 17.5 million. It's understood that the sort of fee was at the time. I think that was the sort of total fee, including add-ons and stuff. I'll be honest, I really was excited by the signing. I thought it was a really shrewd bit of business from West Ham. I thought that we had picked up a really gifted, talented player that got Premier League experience, scored plenty of goals for a pretty decent fee. And I've got to admit, I was quite excited to have him on board. If you go back to the video, now you don't have to. It's a while ago, of course, a couple of years. But you go back to it and see what I was saying at the time. I looked into what the Burnley fans had said about Cornet, about how they felt about him being at their club, the time he'd spent there. And they all sort of suggested the same thing. A really good player on his day, always having injury problems, always unavailable, always felt that every time there was a slight injury, he was out for a period of time. Even if it was quite minor, he was out for a period of time. So there was a red flag in my eyes in terms of Max Cornet and the player that we were getting. But as I said, I still felt that he's a good player. You could see, if you go back and look at these clips from his time at Burnley, he scored some excellent goals, a real talent. So I actually thought that this could be a great move for him and West Ham, exactly what we needed. But let's be honest, it's been, to date, a disastrous signing. It really has been another to add to the list of many now that's forever growing of players that we're spending quite a fair bit of money on. And I know I said, we've got a decent deal, but at the end of the day, £17.5 million, still a fair bit of money on a player. Let's be honest, we wouldn't be able to get that back for him now. He's probably worth half that volume of money. Maybe get 10 for Cornet now. So it would be, in my eyes, a huge loss again. This list is growing all the time. We've got possibly Naif Agurd to add to that list this summer. Another player that we spent a lot of money on that just simply hasn't worked out. Max Cornet, I feel, as I said, to date, it's been a really bad signing for West Ham. And I'm not blaming the player. I'm not necessarily just putting all of that on Max Cornet. I don't think that's fair. I think he's got to take some of the responsibility. But I think that also he's not really had a fair crack either. When he's been available, he's not been selected. But we don't see him and train him. I don't. None of us do. Apart from obviously people that work within the club, know about him and how he's performing. So it's hard to see. To put the blame on the manager as well. To go, well, he's not picking him enough. But there might be a reason he's not picking him. In my eyes, I think there's a problem. I don't think the relationship between the player and the manager is that great. I think it's quite obvious that Cornet is not a player that's trusted by David Moyes or favoured in any way. And I think that stems back to the early days of his time at West Ham. If you go back to his early period at the club, he got an injury to his calf. I think it was his calf, wasn't it? Yeah. Is that right? Yeah, I think it was. His calf was fired. He had a muscle injury. And it was reported that basically that it was quite a serious injury and a really rare one, a rare condition. And it was one that kept him out for a fair bit of time. Now, if you remember, there was clearly an issue in regards to how we went about getting that treatment with what David Moyes has said about him. He basically said that he went there on his own accord. He went to France on his own accord against the wishes of West Ham. He wanted to be family, whatever, at home. That's where he wanted to recuperate. He didn't want to recuperate in London, it didn't go down well with West Ham. It didn't go down with the manager. I think at that point, from that very moment, and bear in mind how early this is in Max Cornet's time at West Ham, I think the relationship was fractured then. I think there was a real lack of trust between then the manager and the player. I think he felt quite let down, David Moyes, in terms of Cornet's refusal to stay at West Ham and recuperate here. That was a problem. And if you remember that injury as well, it was just sort of clouded with mystery. We didn't understand what was going on. It was just this rare condition. We don't know what's going on. Oh, he needs rest. And then all of a sudden seeing him running, then he was out again. It just went on and on and on and on. He was out for a good few months. And his time at West Ham has just simply never recovered. He's never looked a player, in my eyes, that's going to cement himself in that team. That being said, I do think there was a period this season when he was called upon. I think he scored his first goal for the club, which is ridiculous when you consider the player that he is and the reputation he came with from his time at Burnley. Scored his first goal at the club. And it was around that time that I started to think maybe this is his time. Maybe this is his moment now where he's going to get a bit of a run. Because although he wasn't blowing us away with his performances, which you're not going to, are you? If you've been out for such a long period of time, you're not playing, your confidence is dropping. It's unlikely you're going to come off the bench and suddenly perform amazingly. But I did start to see, well, I felt that he was starting to improve. The player was starting to show signs of improvement, that he might actually be able to force his way into this team. Lo and behold, like I mentioned earlier with the Burnley situation, he gets another injury. He gets another injury complaint. He's then out again. It just feels like it's just like repetitive story with him, that he is sort of, you feel like he's just about to start maybe knocking on the door. He's going to start to become part of the manager's thinking, and all of a sudden he's away again, and then it sort of comes again, then he goes again. It's been an incredibly frustrating time for him. So much so, and this is where I feel really sorry for the player, that he didn't go to the Africa Cup of Nations in his home country, Ivory Coast. He wasn't even there. He wasn't part of the squad. That must have been horrendously heartbreaking for him and his family. I can't imagine how painful that must have been, considering I'm saying, you go back to his time at Burnley, he would have been on that plane. He would have been on that plane and playing for that team. Didn't even get in the squad. It's understandable. I mean, if you're the Ivory Coast manager, as if you'd be picking him. You're not even kicking a ball for West Ham. But we are where we are with him. And it's been an incredibly frustrating signing, an incredibly frustrating time for all parties. And I am, personally, I feel like, quite deflated when I think of him now. He's almost like such a forgotten player. Someone, funny enough, I put up a tweet the other day. I picked out a quote that he said. I'm going to go through that in a second, his quote, of what he said to the official website for the club. And a lot of people messaged and responded to it by saying, I kind of forget he plays for West Ham. I feel like that. I almost forget that we've got him. I mean, you consider the fact, right? We've had Said Benrahma and Pablo Fornals leave the club. All right, one on loan, of course, in Benrahma, but depart the club. We now haven't got a left winger. We've got Max Cornet available, and he still struggles to get into the side, even when he's available. He still is not being selected, even though we haven't got a left winger. They will rather put in Ben Johnson than play Max Cornet. That is incredible. And it's not a good look for David Moyes. Let's get this straight. He was the one that wanted the player, sanctioned the deal, wanted to get Cornet from Burnley, and now he can't even get in the squad by any means at the moment. It's really been a bad move for all parties, really, at this stage. However, that being said, if you draw a line, and this is coming from Max Cornet now. Max Cornet has come out and said, I am fully fit. I am now ready to go and to make his impact to West Ham. He has said to basically publicly to the manager, to the fans, to everybody, he is really frustrated. My feeling is now with Max Cornet, this is his last chance. This last period of the season where we've got our European venture, we've got our quarterfinals coming up, we've got the Premier League, the last 9 games of the Premier League. This is the period now where Max Cornet has to deliver when called upon. He's not going to come straight into the side, but we've got plenty of opportunities now to now. He's not, well, I can't say plenty of opportunities. He's not going to have an abundance of them, but he's going to get opportunity, and he must take it. Because this is, I think, his last chance. I think if he doesn't deliver now, he'll be sold this summer at a loss. This is what he said to the official website. He said, my time here has been up and down so far. I don't think it's been up at all. I don't recall any ups with Max Cornet. I've got to be honest. I think I appreciate he's not going to say it's been a disaster, but it has been. There's not been any ups. I can't think of any time Max Cornet's played a West Ham top where I thought, God, wow, he's played brilliant. At all. Can't really remember him playing. Really, there's not many times I can sit there and go, God, I've really watched him play and if I haven't really had much time to see him play. None of us have. In fact, he's made 34 appearances, but let's be honest, that always misleads, isn't it? 34. You always think, well, he hasn't played 34 matches. Most of those appearances have been a few minutes at the end of a game. He scored 1 goal. And I feel for him. But anyway, back to his quote. He said, my time here has been up and down so far. I'm really frustrated because I can't show the supporters that I can be decisive for the team and I can score more goals because of a lot of things. I was injured, and when I came back, it wasn't the best moment for me because the team was doing well. The manager kept his confidence in the starters, but that was normal as they had done well. It wasn't a perfect time. I'm determined to make my best form here. Hopefully there'll be more opportunities to come. I don't think there'll be many more. I think there will be opportunity, but it won't. It's going to be that now. And in that, he must deliver. He must show West Ham, he must show the manager that he is worthy of staying at this football club, because I think that his time is now running low. I think it's coming towards an end. I still have hope, a little bit of hope for him. Not much. And I really want it to work. I really want to see Max Cornet do well at West Ham. But let's be honest, this is do or die now. And if he doesn't deliver, then the summer exit's on the cards.